Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was supposed to adjourn, but I'm happy to turn it back over to Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As senators, our job is to anticipate, not react to, but anticipate emerging threats. Nobody expected flimsy Japanese fighters to sink America's battleships at Pearl Harbor. Nobody expected 19 hijackers with box cutters to turn passenger jets into missiles on 9/11. And today, I fear we're making the same mistake with drones. Nobody's expecting them to cause catastrophic damage, but sadly, it's only a matter of time. The drone was once a novelty. Now it is a weapon, a scout, a smuggler, a spy, a delivery system for terror. Drones pose an immediate and growing threat to our national security. They can attack civilians, smuggle deadly contraband, assassinate leaders, collide with planes, and destroy buildings. War has always foreshadowed the next generation of violence, and we see it with drones. What starts on the battlefield never stays there. It comes home. This is the face of modern warfare. Not a tank, not a missile, but a soldier holding a drone. In Ukraine, a soldier with a $400 drone can destroy a $4 million tank or a $100 million fighter jet. One drone operator can do more damage than an entire infantry squad. In Ukraine, drones have become the dominant tool of war, flooding the skies, destroying expensive war equipment, targeting civilians, and overwhelming defenses. We see the same in the Middle East. You're looking at the Iron Dome, intercepting rockets over Israel in 2021. But here's the lesson. Defense is never perfect. Even the most advanced missile shield in the world can be overwhelmed. That was 2021. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas blinded Israel's radar systems with swarms of drones, clearing the way for one of the most brutal terror attacks in a generation. And just months later, on April 13th, 2024, Iran launched over 300 drones and missiles in a coordinated kamikaze-style assault, the first of its kind. This isn't science fiction. This is the world that our enemies are building and bringing to our doorstep here at home. In 2018, 2 explosive drones nearly assassinated Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro during a live speech. In 2024, Thomas Crooks flew a drone over a Trump rally site for 11 minutes, scouting the grounds before his attempted assassination of President Trump. That same year, drones hovered over Naval Air Station Fort Worth for more than 2 hours, unintercepted. At our southern border, cartels now operate drone fleets, smuggling fentanyl, coordinating illegal crossings, and jamming U.S. surveillance. They've formed specialized drone units. They've dropped bombs. They've deployed jammers. Drones right now are outpacing our law enforcement at every turn. In our prisons, drones drop weapons, phones, and fentanyl. arming inmates, and fueling the deadliest drug epidemic in American history. And here's the most damning part. Cartels right now have more drone capability than American law enforcement. Let me repeat that. Cartels today have more drone capability than American law enforcement. Mr. Hardy, you work at the intersection of law and policy regarding drones at the DOJ. Is it true that only a handful of federal agents under narrow legal authority can intercept or disable a drone?
Thank you, Senator. That is generally true under the 2018 Act that gives DHS and DOJ authority to conduct detection and mitigation operations. That law limits those protection missions to protecting particular facilities and particularly specified missions under very, very detailed requirements. And it only applies to DHS and DOJ. It does not give authority for state and locals.
So to flush that out, is it also true that state and local police, the men and women on the front lines every day, are legally barred from taking actions, even when a drone is hovering over a school, a stadium, or another significant location?
It could depend on the particular facts in an extreme situation, but generally they are not authorized under the law to use the types of detection technology that could implicate laws like the Wiretap Act, and there's also prohibitions potentially under the Aircraft Sabotage Act and other laws that apply to them. Each case would have to be looked at on its particular facts, but there is a lack of clarity in the law that inhibits their operations and investment in that kind of technology and their cooperation with FBI and DHS to engage in the training and to develop the types of approaches to this problem that expanding their authority would allow.
Well, let me be clear. The current state of the law limiting the ability of law enforcement to act proactively to protect people's lives and safety from drone attacks is utterly insane and unacceptable, and we need to address that and correct it. The current state of the law means that a Texas sheriff today has fewer tools to stop a hostile drone than the cartel lieutenant does launching it from across the river. It means a police officer can watch a drone deliver fentanyl, but has limited authority to stop it. If Congress fails to act, the consequences will not be theoretical. They will be measured in lives lost, drugs delivered, and attacks perpetuated against our nation. As the chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, which has jurisdiction over aviation, and as a longtime member of this committee, the Judiciary Committee, which has jurisdiction over criminal law, I've seen this threat from both sides. Mr. Willoughby, as Deputy Director of the Counter-UAS program at DHS, you are at the cutting edge of drone mitigation planning. What are the current legal and jurisdictional challenges between agencies, as well as between federal and local law enforcement, regarding mitigating drone threats?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I think to your first point about between federal agencies, there currently lacks any sort of mutual support provision for DHS to help DOJ or DOD and vice versa, even when we are co-located in high-risk areas. Think about the southern border or dense metropolitan areas. If Mr. Torfey were to say, Steve, I need your help mitigating this drone, I would have to say, sorry, I can't help you under the current framework of the law. Now, there are exceptions to that, but what we're looking for is some sort of explicit mutual support provision that would allow DHS, DOJ, DOD, and other entities that may be brought into the fold to be able to help each other, recognizing that there's limited capacity and it requires a specialized and trained person to be able to operate this equipment.
So what specific steps should Congress take to keep up with and prevent the threats posed by drones? And I want each of you to address that.
Just starting from an authoritative perspective, we need more cooks in the kitchen, which is not a phrase I use lightly. We need more entities out there with trained personnel, with the capabilities, with the countermeasures to be able to detect and then mitigate drones if they pose risk to their jurisdictions. We at the federal level, we can't be everywhere all the time. I mean, just using the border as an example, it's 2,000 miles of linear border, and we have to work closely with our state and local partners for a range of law enforcement activity, and drone response should be no exception. Think about the Department of Public Safety down in Texas. We work hand in hand with them from a border security perspective, but we can't work with them from a drone interdiction perspective, right? And that needs to be rectified, and empowering those state and locals to do that would be top of mind for us.
Thank you for the question, Senator. We've touched on some of these points. I think you touched on another, which is that there's really no framework, and I fear that there's a slipping away from the law enforcement community and a confusion in the private sector about what is legal and who can do what under what circumstances, and you've seen hints of that today. And so passage of legislation to make this very clear is absolutely essential, and that will depend on the setting of a security framework and, critically, the training and certification of these law enforcement officers. Thanks to the seed that was planted through the executive order, the Restoring American Airspace Sovereignty Executive Order, June 6th, it directed the FBI to establish the National Training Center. And so that seed has been planted, and we're going to run our first counter-UAS course in October for select state and local law enforcement with a priority on the FIFA World Cup jurisdictions. Now, this is just detection because we cannot train them on anything having to do with the statute because they're not allowed to implement those authorities. But the FBI has taken that step, and we are ready to go.
Senator, as my colleagues have said, we need legal clarity, at a bare minimum, a reauthorization of the 2018 law, but also an expansion of those authorities to state and local so we can work together in training and creating the kind of system in the community of interest where we can improve and expand these technologies. The other issue that we support this committee examining is ensuring that we have a comprehensive approach in the criminal code for drone offenses.
As the Chairman of Commerce, which has jurisdiction over the FAA and aviation issues, I recognize the risk that poorly operationalized counter-UAS efforts could pose to civilian aircraft, especially near airports. How do you believe that we can harmonize the need to mitigate the drone threat while keeping commercial aviation safe? Mr. Willoughby?
It's a partnership with the FAA, and it has been since 2018 when we got these original authorities, and it has maintained over the course of the last 7 years. Every deployment is coordinated with the FAA. Every piece of technology at every location, we share with them, we coordinate with them, and we do our best to minimize and mitigate any impacts to the national airspace system while we're using this equipment. And we recognize that there's often competition between our need to conduct these security operations and to maintain that safety apparatus on the FAA side. And it's been a work in progress over time to the point where we have such a great relationship right now where we have individual points of contact that we can reach out to at a moment's notice to get any sort of last-minute operation approved and to deconflict any issue that they may be having operational.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. This has been very helpful. It is the solemn duty of Congress not merely to react to evil once it strikes, but to anticipate it, to see the world not as we wish it to be, but as our enemies are planning it, and to stay one step ahead of the darkest hearts on earth. Drones will be used by our enemies. If Congress fails to act on the threat of drones, the consequences will not be theoretical. They will be measured in lives lost, drugs delivered, and horrific attacks perpetuated against our nation. If Congress doesn't act to stop this threat, who will? This concludes our hearing. I want to thank each witness for taking the time to share your personal experience, your expertise, and your perspectives with us. Written questions can be submitted for the record for 1 week from today, and I'll ask the witnesses to answer and return the questions to the committee within 2 weeks of receiving the questions. And with that, this hearing is adjourned.